Hi guys. Okay, so I have another card video sponsored by Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. This stamp is called the lamppost and wreath stamp, and it comes with the main scene here, and then it has this little wreath. So I thought I would try something different today that I've never done before, and that is no line watercoloring. So this is something I've been wanting to try, and honestly I've just been a little scared. So will you watch along with me? All right, so I have the stamp mounted. I have some cheapy watercolor paper, smooth side up. I'm going to be stamping with Distress ink and tea dye. And what this ink should do is give us enough of an impression of the image, but that we can color it in, or color over it, I should say. Hopefully. We'll see how we do here. And for this one, I'm going to be using the Arteza Real Brush pens. I have 2 sets of these, and I thought these were going to be good because, number one, they're water-based. I don't have a lot of the Zig Clean color brushes, and I have 2 different sets, so some of the tips are different size, so if we have to go in and do more fine detail work, it should be okay for us. Okay, and then I have 2 water brushes, and I think they're both Ranger, and then a paper towel off to the side. I'm going to keep the stamp image out so I can take a look at it and reference it, and I'm going to leave the stamp in the MISTI while we work on this. Okay, so I'm going to hit this with the heat tool real quick just to give it a quick dry. I know there's specialty inks out there from different companies for this kind of process. Generally, you want an ink that's fairly light colored. I probably could have went in with a lighter color, but then you guys wouldn't have been able to see what I was doing. So I'm just going to open up my markers here and have the trays out so that I can essentially color the image and then go back and watercolor the image, okay? So I think I'm going to start with the lamppost itself. I have a scratch piece of some of that watercolor paper here that I can use as my swatch sheet. This is called Smoke Gray. It's very light gray. I think that'll work. And then you want to go in with the water brush. And again, this is my first time, so I'd like to know down in the comments how many of you have tried this, what has been your success with it, do you like it or not like it, and we'll go from there. All right, we need black to kind of outline our little lamp here. Okay, so you probably want to make sure your image is not too wet when doing that. I should have thought of that, but that's okay. Okay. And I've always admired this look when other artists have done it because it really makes it look like you drew the image. But it's like faking it, right? It's like fake drawing it, fake coloring it. Just going in with some yellow. Really highlight that. Whoops, try not to get into the black. That's where you gotta be careful. It's probably why I've never done this before. I'm not a careful crafter. I'm a messy crafter. Let's see if we can pull some of that black out of there. we got most of it. And all right, I need a more traditional gray. Let's see what I can find here. All right, this is called Elephant Gray, which is a little darker gray. Let me go back in with that lighter gray, the smoke gray. Right next to me. I will say with using these markers before, they do blend easier on Bristol paper. Bristol Smooth is easier to blend than watercolor paper. I know that's a little ironic, but the watercolor paper soaks up the ink and the water very quickly, so Bristol kind of lets it sit on top, and it's a little easier to blend, but I thought I would try it on watercolor paper. Like I said, we'll see how it turns out. It may be a complete fail, who knows? All right, so I think we'll go in and do the fence now. I'm going to start again with my lighter colors. Just kind of saturate that whole thing. I will add a little bit more medium of a tone. Oh, so that lighter brown was called Ginger. Now I'm going to add some tawny. Okay, and now we'll go in with the water brush and kind of blend those together. Soften those lines, spread out the color. I'll fill in any of the white space I left. Okay, now I'm going to go in with a little bit darker brown. This one is called Chocolate. Appropriate. Okay, actually let me see if I have a finer tipped one. Hold on. Sienna brown. This is from the other set, the Arteza Twee Blend markers. Oh yeah, that's a much finer tip. So I'm actually going to take the very fine tip and kind of outline, draw my image back in, just tracing that image. Just trying to see what I can see through the stamp in terms of images. Also looking at the packaging from the stamped image. Okay, and do that also with the gray. This is cloudy gray. Let's see if that's dark enough. Oh, that's super light. Concrete gray. Okay. Just giving us some lines to follow in our image there. All right, so now the rest of it should be pretty easy because it's all like kind of greenery, shrubbery. So I'm going to start with a lighter green color. Okay, this one is called Green Tea. Oops. And I am just going to dab that in on some leaves. Because all this is, you know, kind of some vines that have grown up the lamppost. And what I like is that you can make this, again, the versatility of the stamps from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps is you can make this any season. You can make this spring, you can make this fall, you can make this, you know, a winter, very easily make this a winter card. You guys have seen me add the Marvy Snow Pen to a lot of my images from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. So, you know, the more green you make this, the more spring it's going to look. The more brown and rainbow colored you kind of make it look, the more fall it's going to look, right? So just go with what you're feeling at the moment. And I'm going to darken some of that up now and add some, this is called chamomile. So we had green tea and now we have chamomile. It's a tea kind of day, right? Let me see here. Yeah. Same thing, just kind of dabbing those colors in. They're very similar. The chamomile is just like a slight shade darker than the green tea. Not a huge difference there. Okay, so let's see. I think I'm going to keep going darker and darker here. Olive green. Okay, and at this point, I think I'm going to try to blend some of that in. Now this side of the photograph of the stamp is supposed to be dried up leaves. So we may go back in and fix that. But for right now, I just want to establish this green background here. It looks like I didn't quite go far enough with my gray marker. I need to widen up my little pole there, so we'll go in and do that in a moment. So I'm not going to put anything in that area. Now, if you're getting too wet and you want to dry it, just take your heat tool. So I think I want to go back in and kind of put some definition in my leaves here and kind of make them look like some dried leaves. But I'm going to go in with some like darker oranges and make it look very fall, very autumn like. Do we have any darker oranges? Let's see. Okay, here we go. This one is called, well, this one's called Earth Red. Just drawing in a little bit more definition there. Paint some of those leaves in. And the stamp isn't real detailed down there. Like you can just see some of its leaves, but it's kind of just like a messy pile of leaves. Okay, so I like that. I'm going to leave that alone. And we want to go back in and add some more of that dark gray in for our little post. I think it comes down more here. There we go. Gives a little bit more dimension. This is coming together. I was really thinking this wasn't going to work and it was going to be a complete fail, but it's really not looking too bad. Let's go in with a darker green marker and add some more definition there to our little vines and such that are growing up here. And this is again taking one of those twee markers because it has that super fine tip, and just going to kind of trace some of those leaves, but again following the direction that the artist has drawn there, the vines. So we have a couple in a couple different directions here. And I like that, and put a little bit more stems in there. Maybe add a couple of vine entanglement. Just a couple in there, some colors. And what's this color? This is, again, olive green. Oh, this is a much darker olive green. I'm going to add a sprinkle of that in there. I think the more green we can get in here, the more colors, the more depth, the more camouflaging of what we're actually doing. There we go. And once again, very lightly going to go in with the watercolor brush and just kind of spread some of that out. Now, the leaves that I drew in, they're going to maintain the majority of their shape. They're not totally going to disintegrate, but it is going to soften some of those edges of what I drew in. So they don't stick out as much as, oh, they were drawn in after the fact. Again, spreading that green around, giving us a little bit different shades. And what's nice is the brown that I used, in some places that Distress ink is kind of lifting and you're not seeing it, and in some places I can leave it and it's blending right in, you know, with the green, so it's really not too bad looking. I was a little worried that it was too dark in the beginning, but I think it's actually okay. That's not too bad. I think I need a little brown right there. Adding some distressed wood look here. Okay. I think that looks pretty good. I'm going to take the heat tool to it. That looks pretty good. Now, if you wanted to define your image, your lines, you can go back in, put it back into the Misty tool, ink it up with a darker colored ink, and stamp over it. I wanted to have this kind of faux watercolored look, this no-line watercoloring, so I'm going to leave it like this. We do want to, I think, add the wreath and the sentiment, so let me just grab a quick sentiment. I really was not expecting this to come out as well as it did, so I didn't grab a sentiment. Can't find my Christmas sentiments. Oh, there they are. Okay. You know what? Before I do that, I want to add a little bit of background color here. Because we are going to make this look like it's outside. We need to have a little bit of background shading. Okay, this one is called Ice Blue. And you know what? I'm going to kind of pre-wet my background because then it will flow a little easier. Less brush strokes and blend a lot easier. So in small sections here, I'm just going to continue adding some water. So again, let me know if you've tried this technique, what success you've had with it, what you think about it. I've never tried it before, but I think this is super neat. And yeah, I'll probably try it again in a future video. Like I said, these Blue Night rubber stamps just make it really easy because the artist has already done all of the work. So all you're basically doing is tracing and coloring it in, which, hey, I can do that. Okay, so this is a fairly light blue. It's got a little bit of a gray undertone, so very easy for this to come out and blend. And by pre-wetting the paperwork, it makes it a lot easier to blend that color. You can always go back in and darken it up. And I think that really finishes off the scene and gives it a little bit more of a finished look. I think this is easier than doing regular watercoloring as well. So you're doing regular watercoloring, you really have to kind of make sure that you are careful with the paint to stay in the lines, and I'm not really that good at that. I mean, with bigger images, yeah, but with smaller images like this where it's more detailed, it's a little harder to do. So this image makes it super easy to do that coloring because it is very artistically drawn. There's really no harsh lines, you know, it's just how you interpret it. That background really sets that off and really makes it look like we watercolored this now. All right, so again, I'm going to take the heat tool to it real quick. Okay, so I think to finish this off, I do want to add the wreath. We are going to do some stamping here. Okay, so I'm going to put this back in the Mini Misty. I'm going to take my main image out. I'm going to add that little wreath, which I'm just going to stamp the wreath on because I do want it to maintain its detail. Let me grab a dark green ink. I'm going to grab my VersaFine Clair in Rainforest, which is a super dark green ink. And I'm going to use that same green ink to stamp the sentiment. And I think I'm just going to use one of these words. This is from the Come Let Us Adore Him stamp set. Let's see here. I think I'm just going to use joy. It's short, it's simple. And I'm just going to stamp it. Well, let's do the wreath first. There's no direction the wreath needs to go in. It just basically sits over this mid part. It's going to cover this little, like, it's like a little nail coming out. So it's going to sit over that. And again, you can do it without the wreath. Personal preference. And I think I want to put an extra magnet on here. There we go. Lots of detail to the little sprigs in the wreath. So I think this is going to come out pretty cool. Yes, I'm going to stamp it again. And I like using the pigment ink because it will sit on top. So it really will look like it's over instead of blending in with and soaking into our colors there. That looks really good. I'm going to do one more. Probably even heat emboss it to make it stand out even more. Okay, that looks really cool. Okay, so now I am debating this sentiment. We have this smaller sentiment that says, "Come let us adore him." Or we could do I'll do that. It's all three words: joy, peace, and rejoice. Let me see how they look, if they're straight or not. I am going to grab a little piece of acetate out of my drawer. You guys have seen me do this before. It's just a little piece of spare acetate. I want to make sure that my words look like they're pretty well lined up. I'm going to use the same dark green ink. Just do a practice stamp over the acetate. Tuck it in the bottom right corner there. And see how that looks. Actually, hey, good job, Nance. I'm going to leave that like that. I think that looks great, and that color looks good on there. So pull that off. Ink our stamps up again. Wow. I'm going to pat myself on the back after this. Okay. So, I'm not done yet. I have some red glitter Nouveau drops. These are called Ruby Slippers. And I'm just going to put a couple balls around our wreath just to make it look a little more festive. And I just put them on and then twist as I let go of the bottle so that we don't have any stray, weird pieces hanging down. And it will dry and it'll be very glittery once it dries. So that finishes off our lamppost scene. Again, I will link everything down below for you. The two stamps that I used were from Blue Knight Rubber Stamps. We have the lamppost and wreath, which is going to give you the lamppost and the wreath. And then the sentiment of joy, peace, and rejoice came out of the Come Let Us Adore Him stamp set. Thank you guys again for watching. Again, if you have any questions or comments, post them down below. I know you can't see them now, but those Nuvo drops will dry and it'll look pretty cool. I'll post a picture on my Facebook page. It's Nancy Stamps 15 at Facebook. And I will link all of the products I use down in the description for you as well. Thank you again to Blue Knight Rubber Stamps for sponsoring this video. And thank you guys for watching. If you have any questions, post them down below. If you like this video, I always appreciate your thumbs up. If you're not a subscriber, click the little bubble that's going to pop up and it'll let you know when I post a new video. Thanks for watching, guys. Keep on stamping. Bye-bye.